Yo, welcome back to another video. We are in the Open Ultra League today, and we want to feature a new team. Oh, we got a little bit of a closeout situation. The game is kind of lag. We're going to go right back into the game. We don't know the counts at all, so we're just going to show this first one. It ends up being the Shadow Ball, so that's the right call. We're going to try to get to another move, but our opponent does throw a move right before we are able to throw ours off. We're going to double shield here and just hope for the best. Ends up shielding a Surf, which is not the right thing, but we are able to get a shield from our opponent. The opponent does throw a Shadow Ball right there, so we're going to go into our own Jellicent right here and hope that we can get a little bit of farm with the Registeel in the back. We go for the Surf right there just to chip away at it. Our opponent here certainly is going to go for our Shadow Ball. Makes sense. They switch out into the Florges. Florges is not going to look forward to seeing the Registeel. We're going to be able to resist all of these moves quite easily here. One Zap Cannon goes through. Our opponent does not shield it. We don't get the debuff, unfortunately, so that right there makes this Disarming Voice a little bit better, but we are still going to be able to win this matchup quite easily. This Disarming Voice chips away at us, and then we're just going to go for a Focus Blast here. Maybe a little bit of an undercharge. Oh, no undercharge, and we do KO it, so the floor just does go down, and they have the Tentacruel in the bag. Tentacruel in the bag is not going to look forward to this Registeel. We're going to throw the Zap Cannon. Huge Zap Cannon goes shielded, but they get the debuff, so the debuff does help us. They switch out. They're going to use some energy to take out this. Oh, they're not going to take out the Jellicent. They're actually going to allow this Jellicent to survive. We have a Shadow Ball ready. This Shadow Ball goes through, and remember, our Registeel already has a move, so that Zap Cannon will potentially KO. And our opponent here ends up leaving because they know their fate. So GG's to our opponent right there. Jumping right back in here, we are going to go into the Shadow Dragonite versus this Galvantula. Pretty decent lead here. We're going to play this out. We're going to shield here, even though they're probably going to bait. Yep, makes sense. But they do switch out. So our opponent does reveal that they have the Jellicent in the back, and we're going to switch into our Registeel. This Registeel versus Jellicent is pretty interesting, as this Zap Cannon does do super effective and potentially gets the debuff. Our opponent does shield, and they do get debuffed right there. That means that we're going to be able to survive this next Shadow Ball quite easily. So we don't shield here, and then we're going to throw on optimal timing. Actually, we let a Hex go through for some reason, and then we throw another Zap Cannon, and it ends up getting another debuff, and they switch out immediately. So we're going to switch out to our Dragonite and almost take out that Galvantula with one Dragon Claw right there. So Dragon Claw goes through, and then we are able to get to another Dragon Claw versus this Mandibuzz. This Mandibuzz is really tanky, so they're gonna have to throw. Okay, they go for the Arrow Ace. I thought they would have gone for the Foul Play or Dark Pulse potentially. Now they allow us to get to another Dragon Claw. That Shadow Dragonite just did tons of work towards the Galvantula and this Mandibuzz. We're going to force them to use some energy that ends up throwing the Dark Pulse. So we're going to take this Mandibuzz out as soon as possible with the Focus Blast. We're going to switch right back into our Jellicent. They revealed that they have that Jellicent still. We are going to allow this to go through. And now that we have that energy already used, we can safely shield here. Even though if this is a bait, we already added Shadow Ball. And from this range, it's close. Should be close to taking it out. Not quite, but one Hex does take it out. So GG's to our opponent right there. Able to win that game, being down a shield when they switch. All right, next game, let's see what we find. We have the Shadow Dragonite versus the Greninja. And this Greninja is going to throw a move immediately here. Our opponent here does throw the Body Slam. Body Slam almost takes out the Dragonite, but they switch out to the Giratina. We're going to switch out into the Registeel on their switch, and looks like they do not have the Shadow Sneak, so this is probably running Dragon Claw Ancient Power. They're going to rely mostly on their fast move here. Now we're just going to go for this Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon does get debuffed, and it looks like our opponent is basically just going to throw a bunch of Dragon Claws at this point, because that Ancient Power would be resisted as well. We switch out into the Poliwrath. We're going to switch into our Jellicent. Here, we're just going to make sure we are okay, we don't avoid the debuff right there, but that's a little bit unfortunate. We're going to throw the Shadow Ball. It does get a shield, even though we already debuffed. Our opponent does throw the next move here. Ends up being another Scold. They get another debuff. Wow. So 2 debuffs right there. A little bit unfortunate. And now our Shadow Balls are basically doing non-effective moves. Nice catch by my opponent right here. We throw another inefficient Shadow Ball towards this Greedent. This Greedent soaks up all that damage quite easily. Right there, we go for a Dragon Claw bait. They don't go for the shield, and our opponent is going to allow us to farm down. Now we're just going to go for this Superpower versus this Poliwrath. Now they shield, so nice job by my opponent right there. Our opponent does throw a move here. We have to shield right here just to maintain some health, and then our opponent does switch right back in with their Giratina. Giratina already has a move, and they are able to get us low enough to force us to throw this Shadow Ball. This Shadow Ball does take out the Giratina, but looks like our opponent is able to get to a move here with the Poliwrath versus our Reggie. Skull goes right through, and unfortunately for us, we are just short of a Focus Blast to take out that Poliwrath. So GG's to our opponent right there. Nice job catching moves, switching out. They had a really flexible team, not gonna lie. A lot of switches and catching. So let's see what we do next here. Shadow Dragonite versus this Greninja. We have a favorable lead here. They only could throw Night Slash. The Night Slash is neutral, but it doesn't quite KO. So we're gonna allow the first one to go through. Dragon Claw goes through on optimal timing, and then our opponent is going to throw another Night Slash. This Night Slash would take us out, so we're going to shield here, forcing them to switch out into the Skeledirge. So we're going to switch into the Jellicent here. Potential Shadow Ball coming in. We're going to throw this Surf. Let's see if they shield this. No shield, so we're going to have to go for the back-to-back Surfs. This next Surf here will KO the Skeledirge or get the last shield, but our opponent does elect to let it go. Here, we're going to go for a Surf to chip away at this Greninja. Doesn't quite KO, but they do throw a move, so it looks like they are going for the Night Slash. It doesn't quite KO. Our opponent here does get to a Night Slash right here. It was pretty quick. We are able to survive it, thankfully, and that is the power of the Jellicent right there, doing some huge damage and surviving those last 2 moves, basically, from Greninja and the Annihilape. So GG's to our opponent. On to the next game. We got the Shadow Dragonite versus Skuntank here. Okay, I'm a little bit jealous. Don't have this built yet, but our opponent does. The opponent does throw on CAP, so our Dragonite does win that charge attack priority. Looks like we're going to have to shield after they shield. They switch out into the Giratina here. Giratina is going to be matched up against our Registeel. Registeel only, the Giratina only throws a Dragon Claw. So once again, another Dragon Claw, Ancient Power Giratina. We throw the Zap Cannon. We do get the debuff. So this is going to make this Giratina's matchup versus this Registeel even worse. So we're not going to shield anything at this point, and we're just going to fire up as many Zap Cannons as possible. Second Zap Cannon goes through. We don't get the debuff, but look at that. It's already into the yellow. Our opponent does throw another Dragon Claw, still not in the red yet. Our opponent is able to get to another Dragon Claw again. Now we're into the red, but we already have a Zap Cannon ready to go. We throw this Zap Cannon. Now they go into the low reds. They switch out into the Poliwrath, and we're going to switch into this Jellicent, and they know it's GG. So that is a nice little team right there. Check out this team if you haven't already, and let us know if you enjoyed the video.